Ben here, back with another video for you. Today we're going to cut a few logs up here, but before I do, I'm going to show you guys what I get into with the prep work on my sawmill. Now, the sawmill is pretty simple, straightforward. My sawmill is a Woodland Mill 722. They've since changed this over to an HM 122. But this is a 2016 model that I got. Now, to start off with, when I start my day off here at the sawmill, basically this sawmill is just a small hobby sawmill, and I'm only cutting for wood for myself. So let me start off by saying that this really isn't what I consider to be a production sawmill. So I'm only cutting enough wood to keep myself happy with a steady in-stream of fresh lumber. So I try to cut about, on average, if I cut one log a week, that keeps it so that I have fresh boards every week coming off my lumber stack that I have dried. Now, on the best day I've cut so far, I've cut 15 logs in a day. So that's a pretty good stack of lumber, 15 logs. On average, I would say I cut about 5 to 10 logs a day. And the main reason for that is, you know, I don't get started till 9, 10 o'clock, and I try to end my day around 2 o'clock. My daughter gets out of school. So I only have those few hours during the day to try to get some wood cut. So by the time I get out here and get started, and then get my logs up on the mill and get going, cut them down, get them cut, get them taken out in the yard, stack them, sticker them, put boards between them, and have them stacked and done. I usually get about 5-10 logs done when I come out here. And I only get a chance to come out here 2-3 days a week at the most. So, like I said, on average, I consider on average across the board I get about 1 log done a day. So if I get 1 log a day, and if I get 4 or 5 logs, or 4 or 5 boards out of a log, I consider that pretty good. You know, 4 or 5 boards a day. You know, I'm probably only going to do a project maybe 2 or 3 a month. That gives me a steady stream of lumber to work on any kind of projects that I have going on in the garage without having to pay the cost of the rough cut lumber. So it's snowing out today. It's a beautiful day. It's roughly 30 degrees out here. It's just a couple degrees above freezing. It's not too bad as far as it being real cold out. And I've got some logs stacked up here next to the mill ready to roll. As far as prep work goes, I had a few questions on this, and that's why I'm making this video. To start off with, I left my blade on here the last time that I cut. Every time I end my sawmill, I stop using it for the day. I loosen my saw blade up, I take the tension off it so that the saw blade doesn't have any tension in it, and that it keeps the blade from stretching, and it keeps from putting a flat spot in my belt. If you leave your belt tensioned up, it puts a flat spot across the belt on the back side. I'll show you what I mean. When you open this up, the clutch that comes off of the motor is just a centrifugal clutch that has a V-belt on it. The V-belt comes over and goes around the drive wheel. Now the drive wheel on this, the belt goes on the inside and then the blade goes around the outside on top of the belt. So if you leave this tensioned up, your blade is pushing on the outside of this belt, and I believe it puts a flat spot on that belt. And you go to start up, and what it'll do is it'll run and it'll hit that flat spot, and it'll vibrate. It'll give it above. It'll kind of bounce and shake, and it causes some issues there. And it took me a little while to figure that out. I'll be honest with you, I didn't read the manual verbatim when I got the sawmill. I sat down, I was in a hurry to get it running. I just kind of skimmed through it, set the sawmill up, and I started running right away. I was excited to get it running, get it going, and get some boards cut off it. So I didn't sit down and read it all the way. And if you read the manual, it does say not to leave the blade tensioned on the sawmill. So that's one of those little pieces of information that you know, those of you out there that are just getting a sawmill might find it to be a good piece of information. But if you read the owner's manual, you'll get to know that anyway. Alright, so to get started here, take the old blade off from last time I was out here. I was in a bit of a hurry and never put the saw blade back on there. Now take this blade off of here. I put my foot on it here, put my hands around the inside and spin out. You get that piece to come down, flip around, snag on the glove a little bit, and the blade comes around nice and easy. Now I've got a brand new blade here. Nice brand new one to start up with. I'm going to take this old dull one, take the tie off the new one, put the tie on the old one. These blades, when you open them up, you really got to be careful, and I recommend wearing a pair of gloves. You know, they do bite, and they leave some nasty scars when they do bite. So just be careful with these blades. They're sharp, they're razor sharp, and they have a lot of spring-loaded tension in them. So I recommend put them down on the ground, put your foot on it, and just kind of ease them open. Once you got the blade open, put the blade on there so that the guides are on. I put my fingers up around the back side of this. Now, I'm sure there's better ways of doing this, more technical, but what I end up doing is I put the saw blade on just like you showed you there. I put my hand on the back side and I run the blade to the even with the back side of the wheel. Okay? Once I got the blade even with the back side of the wheel, I just take and tighten this down a little bit. Once I've got it pretty tight, just check it, make sure that it's right about where I want it. Tighten it down. I run it by hand. I spin it to see where the tracking is, see which way the blade's going to go. I find that if you run the blade, all my blades are the same length, so most of them on average, once I have it set up right, I don't have to adjust the tracking on it at all. I just tighten the blade up and it's usually right about where I want it. So that's good to go. And close this up. And move on to the next thing. Now that we got the blade on the sawmill, the next step is to put our lube in here. Now what I use for lube in the winter time, since it's below freezing out here, is a little bit of windshield washer fluid. Fairly cheap, easily accessible. What I do is I just pour the windshield washer fluid in there. Summertime I just use water. Wintertime I just use some windshield washer fluid. That should be enough to get me started. The next thing I use, along with the water or the windshield washer fluid, depending how warm it is a little bit of dish soap. Now, there's probably a given mixture that people like to use, you know, so much per cup of water or however it is. But you know, what I usually do is I just take the dish soap and I usually just give myself a couple of good squirts in there. And I consider that good. You know, a little bit of soap goes a long way. And I usually put this cap on here and give it a little shake. Now, if you put your dish soap in first and then you put your water in, it just fills with foam all the way up and it gets to be a little bit of a hassle. So I figured what works the best is to just fill your jar of water or windshield washer fluid, put your soap in afterward, and then you close the lid and then you shake it up. The dish soap will settle to the bottom, and when you shake it, it'll all mix in nice and even. So that's all there is to it for prep work on the sawmill. First thing I do is put a saw blade on it, whether it be a new one or a sharpened one, and then from there, all it is putting a little bit of dish soap in, and then I always check the oil on it, and I check for gas, make sure I have gas. Put some fresh gas in, fill the gas up, and that's all there is to it. Start it up and you're ready to rock and roll. Real simple, real easy. You know, it's a lot like starting your lawnmower up. It's just a simple pull start and away you go. I hope that answers all your questions on the prep work on the sawmill. There's really not much to it. All I do is just a little bit of fresh blade, some fresh gas, and some fresh lube, and I'm ready to rock and roll. Now, as far as the logs go, A lot of people will ask me, what about the logs? What do you do for prep work on the logs? As far as I'm concerned, there really isn't a whole lot of prep work on the logs. I don't debark them. A lot of people do. And it's probably a good thing for the longevity of your saw blades. They'll last longer if you do take the bark off of your logs. But for me, I just can't justify washing the logs or debarking them with an axe or even a chainsaw. I think the best thing to do is just to cut them. And you know, at some point I'll either resharpen the blade or I'll get another blade. But I think it's best just to cut them and leave the bark on the log just the way it is. So that's what I'm going to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more. Tomorrow I'll bring you on for part 2 of this, where I go on and cut these logs that I have sitting here next to the sawmill. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.